This economy has gone from bad to worse. Here's an example. The Atlanta Fed revised its Q1 GDP to negative 1.5%. That's down from its estimate of 2.3% 2 weeks ago and 3.9% 4 weeks ago. What's up with the sudden change? Well, one of the number one reasons could be that the number one source of liquidity and job creation in the United States government, is now being cut off and exposed for all of the waste and fraud that's happening.
And of course, you were in that meeting yesterday. What can you tell us?
DOGE is finding things that any business should have under control, but the federal government does not. Let me give you a couple examples.
Okay.
They found an agency that had twice as many credit cards outstanding as there were employees at the agency. They have found fields on computers that say, where is this payment being made to, and to whom is it being made for what? And those fields are empty. They've never been filled out. Money's outgoing. We don't know where it's going. And it is not, it's the worst of business practices, and it's happening with billions of taxpayer dollars.
And that's causing panic in the markets, but not for people who've been in Bitcoin for more than a cup of coffee. Standard Chartered's head of digital assets says that he believes that Bitcoin's price will be $200K in 2025 and $500K before Donald Trump leaves office.
Hopefully we'll get some regulatory clarity in the US too, and that can see, again, a lot more traditional players entering the market. Probably that will see volatility come lower, and again, that should add to that medium-term top side potential, which for me is Bitcoin up to $200,000 this year and $500,000 before Trump leaves office.
While you were panicking, massive moves were being made on Bitcoin's behalf behind the scenes. Today, we're going to walk through 6 reasons why you should be bullish about Bitcoin right now, despite everything you're seeing in the headlines. Reason number 1, people like BlackRock are adding Bitcoin to their $150 billion alternative assets portfolios. And people like Michael Saylor are orange pilling people on Capitol Hill. Lock in. We've got a lot to cover today, and it's time to be bullish. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. Reason number 1 to be bullish about Bitcoin in 2025. While the bears were sleeping and selling all of their Bitcoin, firms like BlackRock were adding its own ETF to its alternative assets portfolios, adding their recommendation of 1 to 2% allocation into Bitcoin into some of their other strategies. BlackRock clearly doesn't believe in not getting high on your own supply. Reason number 2 to be bullish on Bitcoin right now. While you were sleeping, Michael Saylor reminds us that he never sleeps, and he was presenting the digital asset framework to the Financial Services Committee on Capitol Hill. Can you imagine him around a conference table talking about Bitcoin being the dominant digital capital network in the world moving forward? Well, you don't have to imagine it.
Do you see a day where Donald Trump has a U.S. reserve in Bitcoin?
I do, actually. I think that Bitcoin is emerging as the world's reserve capital network. It is the dominant capital network of the world. So the dollar is the world's reserve currency. And you recall, I said money is currency of its short-term medium exchange. It's capital of its long-term store of value. And if I wanted to send $1 billion from one point on the earth to the other, right? The choice is ship $1 billion of gold, move $1 billion building, or send Bitcoin, or send $1 billion of paintings. You can see paintings aren't fungible. They don't make good money. A building isn't portable. It doesn't make good money. Gold, gold failed as a capital network 400 years ago when the King of Spain tried to send a bunch of gold to the Netherlands to finance his army. It got blocked by Queen Elizabeth. She bankrupted the Spanish army, and that's why the Netherlands is Protestant and not Catholic today. So it's pretty obvious. Bitcoin is a great capital network, and it's a great capital asset. It makes sense for the U.S. to own it, because if the U.S. owns that capital network, then anybody that wants to sell their Russian real estate or their Chinese natural gas fields is going to buy Bitcoin. So if you know where everybody's going, if you know everybody in the rest of the world is going to Bitcoin, and if you know everybody in the 20th century is going to trade their 20th century assets for 21st century assets, you might as well buy a big chunk of the network so that when they get there, you're the beneficiary of it. And I think Trump is a pretty good business person, and this is an economic brilliant stroke. So I think that they get it, they understand it, and we will see the U.S. Move very, very aggressively into Bitcoin at some point in time.
And if you actually read his digital assets framework proposal that he presented to the folks on Capitol Hill, you'll see some pretty bullish things, like section number 5, which he labels opportunity, establishing the United States as the global digital leader. Here were some of the points that he talks about. Number 1, the growth in digital assets will drive demand for United States treasuries to $10 trillion. Number 2, United States investors will capture the majority of the value when Bitcoin appreciates from a $2 trillion asset to a $280 trillion asset. He believes that foreign investment into the United States and digital assets in general will grow to $590 trillion. And he believes that the United States has an opportunity to remove or relieve $16 trillion to $81 trillion worth of debt. I know that we've heard these sorts of numbers and things from Michael Saylor before, but what do you think about average people in Washington, D.C.? And combine this when you have other leaders like Cynthia Lummis taking to the media networks and talking about how she spends dollars and saves in Bitcoin.
Let's get to crypto, Senator, because you're in New York City today for the Bitcoin Investors Conference. You'll be on several panels later today. I understand last night you bought drinks at a Bitcoin-themed pub key bar. But listen, you paid in cash. Why? How about Bitcoin?
Well, because I spend dollars and save Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an asset that's growing in value, and I know it's volatile. Its short-term volatility has been in existence since it has been in existence. But in the long term, it's growing in value, where the U.S. dollar is by design debasing. Every year, the Fed has it designed so it inflates 2% or more. They try to keep it around 2%, but they can't. And so the U.S. dollar is always declining by design.
Yeah.
And so the scarcity of Bitcoin, the fact that 21 million will only exist in all of time, gives it that certainty, that stability, that scarcity in the long run. And there will be short-term volatility, but over time, as it becomes more ubiquitous, it will become more stable and more valuable.
In a recent webinar that Unchained did with the Bitcoin Policy Institute, they got a bunch of folks together like Preston Pish, who says it's just exciting that the United States is talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the first place.
I think the conversation happening way up there is really exciting because it just has this trickle-down effect. And just like Bitcoin, where the institutions weren't the ones that figured it out first, it was the onesies and twosies in each nook and cranny around the world that did an intense amount of work, that understood it. And so it's being built up from the foundation at the lowest levels up. And so why wouldn't we see that same dynamic play out almost like a fractal with respect to government? And I think that's exactly what we're going to see. So regardless of whether they do the SBR, regardless of whether they do Bitcoin bonds at a federal level and all these other really interesting ideas, the fact that it's being talked about up there is the point that I think is really exciting.
Reason number 3 to be bullish. People like Paul Tudor Jones are saying that all roads lead to inflation because the United States government, historically, it will have to respond in the way that other nations have done in the past when its debt has gotten this high. And that is to inflate their way out.
Are you off buying gold and Bitcoin and
I think all roads lead to inflation. We're going to end up,
But does all roads lead to inflation, therefore gold is a good investment? Is Bitcoin a good investment to you?
I'm long gold. I'm long Bitcoin. I think commodities are so ridiculously underowned. So I'm long commodities. I think most young people find their inflation hedges via the NASDAQ. That's also been great. It's probably some combination. I probably have some basket of gold, Bitcoin, commodities, and NASDAQ, something like that. And I would own zero fixed income. If I had my cash, it'd be very short term. The playbook to get out of this, you see it in Japan right now. They have 2% inflation, 30 basis points overnight. They don't want to raise rates. The playbook to get out of this is that you inflate your way out and you have a small tax on the consumer and you run interest rates and nominal growth rate, interest rates below inflation and nominal growth above inflation. And that's how you reduce your debt to GDP. So you're going to have the Fed they should be easy. They should be
easy. You want them to cut.
So just real quickly. Yeah. Every 100 basis points, given where our debt to GDP right now, every 100 basis points is worth about $90 billion a year to the deficit. $90 billion. So yes, if we're trying to stabilize debt to GDP, we want to run the most dovish monetary policy that we can without letting inflation become too much of a tax on the citizenry. So yes, all roads lead to inflation. That's historically the way every civilization has gotten out, is they've inflated away their debts.
Are you long gold in Bitcoin? Reason number 4 to be bullish about Bitcoin. According to previous all-time highs and looking at halving analysis, about 315 days after the halving is when we start to see fireworks going off for the next Bitcoin bull run. This turns out to be pretty true, and a lot of people forget that we had a halving in April of 2024. According to analysis, when you look at Bitcoin halvings, when you get to 315 days after the halving, you see explosive movements in the price of Bitcoin after consolidation, or what people call chop-solidation, into explosive movements upwards. We've got 2 more reasons to be bullish about Bitcoin, but before that, let's go to our sponsors. One of the reasons to be bullish about Bitcoin is that there's companies and products out there like Ledn offering with their digital Bitcoin-backed loans that allow you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin. Since 2018, Ledn has been the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, allowing you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling it. They've issued over $7 billion worth of loans to tens of thousands of customers, and they were the first digital lender to do a proof of reserves. They even publish an open book showing you their rates over time, and they don't want to hide anything from their customers. That's why their reviews have been so high. Their process is simple. If you want $5,000 in loans in dollars, you have to post $10,000 worth of Bitcoin. You can see if you're approved for a loan in just 2 minutes by going to ledn.io/borrowing, and you can unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin in less than 24 hours. Go to ledn.io/borrowing to get started in your process today. Our next sponsor helps you to become a self-sovereign Bitcoiner, and that's by removing your Bitcoin from exchanges into self-custody so that you can protect your generational asset the right way, and that is the Bitcoin way. The Bitcoin Way provides you with members from their team that will help you remove your Bitcoin from exchanges privately, confidently, and securely. The number one risk that you have by keeping Bitcoin in the system is that the Bitcoin is not there and it's not yours. You can remove those concerns by removing your Bitcoin from exchanges. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team to walk through exactly how you can do this and how you can take self-custody of your Bitcoin the right way. Go to thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin in order to schedule a free 30-minute meeting with their team. Reason number 5 to be bullish about Bitcoin. The existing system does not work. An example 30,000. Citi actually credited somebody's account $81 trillion instead of $280. Luckily, someone caught it within the first 90 minutes, or the money was actually about to be transferred into someone's account. Citibank sent a message to the Federal Reserve and the Office of the Comptroller saying that this was a near miss. Here's the craziest thing about the whole situation. Can you imagine if $81 trillion actually would have moved? Or how there was actually $81 trillion that they were able to send to someone's account in the first place? I mean, what value does money actually have if you can accidentally print $81 trillion as a commercial bank out of thin air? This is the problem with the existing system. The people that are closest to the money printer and have the ability to push that button have an unlimited ability and unlimited powers that the normal people don't have. And this has created unjust weights and measures in our system, which leads me to reason number 6 to be bullish about Bitcoin right now. For the first time, we have a system that allows people to fight back against the powers of the people that are closest to the money printer. There's actually a system that rewards people for sowing. And right now, people are able to reap what they haven't sowed. In this fantastic clip from Larry Lepard in his interview with Natalie Brunell, you can hear exactly what I'm talking about and why I'm so bullish on the future of Bitcoin and creating a just monetary system.
Yeah, I highlighted one section in your book that I liked because I didn't know this about you. You have a friend that's a pastor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You shared a quote, and I want to share it because I think it's so powerful. He said, "Here's to a future where my children and your children can work hard, save their money, prosper, and serve God without their labor being devalued by wicked rulers with a money printer."
Isn't that a great line?
Yeah. What does that mean to you?
Well, he's calling for fairness. And the other quote from him he's a really good guy in the book. He talks about how there's certain natural laws that we've all grown up with. We all know that, you reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
And this reaping and sowing is proof of work, right? You plant a seed, it grows into a crop, right? And we all know that, you do when somebody with the ability to click a mouse key can create money, that's reaping something, and they haven't sown anything. There's no proof of work. That's inherently unfair. It gives the person with a finger on that key enormous unfair power. And therein lies the whole damn enchilada.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the friggin' problem.
And this leads me to my last and final message. We have an opportunity to how we want to respond into these markets. These markets can either exhaust you, or they can build a better resilience and a better resolve for other downturns. The volatility can overwhelm you, or you can step back and take the long view. You can have conviction and understand how this thing plays out in the long term. Jack Mahler says it pretty good in this 2-minute clip here.
Man, I thought this Jack guy said we were going to the moon.
We have a liftoff.
I thought Bitcoin was going to fix the money, fix the world. I thought holding sats and staying humble was going to solve all my problems. And it's going to exhaust you. It's going to wear you out and wear you down. Or it's going to scare you out. Sometimes this market will just take the seat right from under you. You ever been on those giant drop rides where they bring you up and then just whoosh, and they just drop you down? You feel that gut-wrenching fear in your stomach? That's what markets will do as well. Where Bitcoin will trade 25% down in one day, and it'll scare you out. Be like, oh, screw it, I'm out of this market.
I don't fucking understand Bitcoin at all.
I don't trust these Bitcoin influencers. I don't trust the Bitcoin Standard, Seyfanina Moose.
These fucking guys are fucking cuckoo.
And so wear you out or scare you out, and that's where we are. We're being worn out right now. I wouldn't be surprised if this market tried to scare you out as well. Is a drop to 80K impossible? No, not at all. I preach patience. I preach conviction. I'm an advocate of the trend. I'm an advocate of the fundamentals. I'm an advocate of math, of cryptography. Trading this market, no bueno. You will get scared out. You will get worn out. And I'm telling you, I've been telling you since Thanksgiving, there's going to be a lot of volatility in the near term. This market's not going to run away yet. It's also not going to zero. We know that. It's going to chop and chop and chop and chop and chop. So another week goes by. I've got relatively the same update. Stay focused, work hard, earn more than you spend, stack sats, stay humble.
One of the best ways to stay humble and stack sats in this market is to get around other people who are like-minded in their mission about Bitcoin. And there is no better place to do that than by coming to the longest running Bitcoin conference in the United States, BitBlockBoom, happening in Dallas, Texas from April 3rd through April 6th. Join me and hundreds of your favorite Bitcoiners from all across the world to come to this action-packed conference where you can hear from amazing speakers like Parker Lewis, Guy Swan, Marty Bent, Bob Burnett, Gary Leland. And you can also have access to exclusive workshops like how do you buy your first Bitcoin? How do I mine Bitcoin at home? How do I take self-custody of my Bitcoin? And exclusive, fun, and entertaining parties where you can meet your favorite Bitcoiners in real life like the Saturday casino night. Head to bitblockboom.com and enter the promo code BBB25 for $100 off your all-inclusive ticket. That's the promo code BBB25 for $100 off your all-inclusive ticket. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.